Good day, and welcome to our webinar speaker series, hosted by the International Society for Industrial Ecology. My name is Preeth, and I will be your host for today's webinar titled 2030, China's Green Development in Terms of Decoupling. The ISIE webinar series invites leading practitioners and researchers from various subject sections to talk about the latest developments in industrial ecology. In today's webinar, we will learn from the socioeconomic metabolism section with our speaker, Professor Dajian Zhu. Dr. Dajian Zhu is a distinguished professor at the School of Economics and Management, Director of Institute of Governance for Sustainable Development, and Vice Chairman of the University Academic Committee at Tongji University in Shanghai. His research interests include sustainable development and green economy, urban and regional development, public service and public-private partnerships, and corporate social responsibility. He was most recently awarded the Circular Economy Leadership by the World Economic Forum in 2016. He's also appointed as a member of the National Foundation for Social Sciences, a member of the Social Science Commission under the Chinese Education Ministry, a member of the Experts Commission on Sustainable Development and Resource and Environment at the Chinese Construction Ministry. Before we begin, we would like to remind our listeners that we welcome any questions you might have, and our speaker will answer them at the end of the talk. Please type questions directly into the Zoom Q&A window throughout the presentation. You might see a small box at the top or the bottom of your screen that says Q&A, and once you click that, you will be able to send in a question. And with that, we welcome Professor Dajian to the ISIE webinar series.
Thank you for your introduction. Hello, everybody. It's my pleasure to give a talk here about China's green development, particularly for the next 2 decades. I mean, from 2010 to 2030. 2030 is the peak China wants to get in terms of environment and resource consumption. It is the peak year. So generally, basically, I want to share 3 issues with all of you, which is why, what, and how. I hope my speech will give big pictures of some key information for this topic to you. Now let's begin to the first part. For the why, let me introduce a simple formula. I guess most of you are familiar with this one. That is, I is equal to the result of 3 elements. Here, I is the impact in terms of resource consumption and environmental impact. P is the number of the total population. A is the difference in terms of GDP per capita. And the technology, we can use the impact of GDPs. I want to use this formula to analyze the China's future for the next 2 decades. First, about I. Generally speaking, or briefly speaking, let me take 2010 as a base year. In 2010, China has about 1.26 billion people. It's 1.34 billion people in 2010. Every year, China got another about 10 million people for every year. So that means by 2030, China will get the total number of 1.45 billion people in China. So, and another number later I will mention about by 2030, about 70% urbanization rate will be seen in China, which means about 1 billion people living in the urban areas until 2030. So this is why I want to talk about the year 2030 is the critical year for China's green development. This is the first element for the environmental impact and the resource consumption. The second key element is about efforts in terms of economic growth or in terms of GDP per capita. You know, in 2010, China in average levels in terms of US dollars per capita is about 4,000 USD per capita in 2010. According to the 6 to 7%, China has been doubled in about 10 years. So you can see by 2020, China has twice 2010, which means China has 8,000 US dollar per person in 2020. Then by 2030, another doubles. Sorry, this is wrong on the slides. China got another doubles, which equals 16,000 US dollar per capita, nearly about 4 times of the year 2010. This is the second element which factors to impact the resource use and the environmental impact. Then about the third element is about technology. We use material intensity or resource productivity to describe technologies. Particularly like in terms of CO2 emissions, China has in average levels, China has annual improvement of 4 to 5% of the improvement. Like from this slide, you can see from 2005 to 2010, China has reduced the energy intensity and the CO2 intensity nearly about 20%. In the average levels, annual is about 4% of improvement. Then take those 3 elements all together. I want to say by 2030, you can see this kind of scenarios. What the impact look like. If we take 2010 as the best year, population is this number. It is the best year. Reference is the 4,000 US dollars. Technology is 100%. The environment impact is 100%. Then by 2030, you can see we have the 1.45 billion people, which 1.1 times the best year, 2010. Then the reference is the 4 times of the best year, which the total is the total GDPs is might 4.4 times times the best year. If we take technology if the technology is not changed, maybe where we can map the impact in terms of environmental impact, total is 4.4 times of the best year. But you know, every year we have some improvement in terms of technology efficiency. Like if we have 60% improvement in the total 20 years in these 2 decades, that means we have the environmental impact have the 1.76 times of the best year. So let me take conclusions for the first part. This generally speaking, by 2030, China's economic amount will be 4 times as best year. Then impact will be nearly doubled, which means we get 4 times output with a less than twice impact to get the output. This is the general pictures for China. So you know China has promised that by 2030 China's CO2 emissions will get the peak, like the price this slide showed. So for the first part, China why want to shift the development agenda from the traditional ground agenda to the green agenda. It's the reason. So generally, you can see from in the total 40 years, started from the 2010 to the 2015, you can see the 3 periods. The first is the before 2030 is a relative decoupling, decoupling economic growth and development with resource consumption and environmental pollution. This is the improvement of the efficiency to get a relative decoupling. Then after 2030 is the peak year, China one expected. Then we have some years to be stable in terms of environmental impact. Then before 2050, maybe we hope want to get the absolute decoupling, which decouple economic growth with resource consumption and the environmental impact. I think this is the general pictures about China's green development for the particularly for the next 2 decades. If you we look longer by 2050, this is the general pictures. This is the first one I want to say. This is the first part. Now let me say say about the second part, especially for the what. In which areas China want to get the target decouple? Still, we use the impact is the element of the PAT. From these 3 elements, we can say 4 categories of decoupling. The first one is for the P, for the population. I want to say the decoupling urbanization. This is the one decoupling. The second and the third for the elements technology, we use the circular economy and the low carbon economy to go towards the new industrialization. This is the third, the second element where we can see another 2 decoupling. The fourth decoupling is about new consumption and new lifestyle for the efforts. So for the second part, for the what, I want to say 4 things, 4 decoupling areas, one by one. Now let's first see the decoupling number 1 about a new type of urbanization. Generally, I want to say we should shift from traditional urbanization in terms of urban sprawl, in terms of land use and space consumption, shift to the compact urbanization, which means in terms of smart growth and the function mixed. Before I want to say the key issues, let me show this picture to you. This picture is a very characteristic of Chinese. Although China is the fourth, the third largest countries in terms of areas, but at least the half of the China's areas is not suitable for the development, for the economic growth. This picture shows along these lines, which divided China into two parts. To the east is at the moment we have nearly about more than 19% people living in this area. To the east of the to the east of the line. To the west, less than 10% of the population living in these areas. So for the urbanization, China should hold 70% of the people into the urban areas. Before I mentioned this is totally about 1 billion people into the urban areas. How to use the land and space to hold this huge numbers of population. This is a challenges for the China in terms of sustainability. So traditional people always debate about focus on the skills of the city development. Some people prefer to large cities to hold the peoples. They say like Beijing, Shanghai, this kind of mega cities is the solutions for the China urbanization. If we take these examples, China should, if we take mega cities is 10 million people for them. This means we should use the 100 mega cities to have the whole 1 billion people into the urban areas. This is the bigger city solutions. For the another extremes, some people prefer small towns as the solutions for the China's urbanization. For example, some people say 10,000 or couple of 10,000 peoples for the city. It is good. In that means maybe we should spend how to say 100,000 1 million cities to hold the whole 1 billion people into the urban areas. I want to say for the in terms of sustainable urbanization, these two solutions, it is not good for China's urbanization. Here, I want to say this is China's characters urbanization. It is we should set up some city regions or cluster cities. We use the maybe we can use the like less than 20 huge city regions to hold these people, to hold the whole urban populations. In that case, we can do the target of the triple bottom lines, sustainable want to get in terms of economics, they can create jobs for the people, and also they can have a different people in terms social cohesions into the urban areas. The third one is about in terms of environmental impact. We can use the density space to hold. This is the first decoupling of the China's sustainability. This is one. The second decoupling, I want to say some words about the circular economy. Circular economy is a big issue, but here I just want to say some key issues from China's situation. In China, normally we say circular economy, including the three kinds of cycles. The first one, according to the whole life product life cycle. The first loop is about waste cycling from waste to the second materials back to the production process. The second cycle is a goods cycle, which means remanufacture products and remanufacture parts. This is the second cycle. The third cycle is about the service, which means product service system, which is we know about this one. We don't sell products, but we can provide the service to the customers. So this is I make a draw to show this three cycles in China's models of circular economy. But at the moment, currently China has did a 10 practice in the field of circular economy. If we use some if we use these pictures to show China's circular economy achievements and also some shortings, I can say China did a lot of things in the end of pipe treatment, like recycling waste. But we still have a long way to do about the upstreams. I mean, we did a lot of things in the downstreams of the product life cycle, but we still short of achievements in the upstreams, like sharing platforms, like product as a service, and circular supplies, like this type of things we still do things. So for the second decoupling, I want to say for the next 2 decades, China's circular economy should shift from the end of pipe wasting recycling to the upstreams, like remanufacture and the product service and the sharing economy. So at the moment, China has done another 5 years plan for the economic growth and the social development. Put lots of effort to the product service systems and the sharing economy, like car sharing systems, bicycle sharing systems, which later I will mention. This is second decoupling. The third decoupling areas is about low carbon emissions. For this, in comparison to circular economy, I want to say circular economy focuses on the material flows. For the low carbon economy, we should focus on the energy flows. For China, what's the key issues for the low carbon emissions transition? I think maybe I want to mention 2 or 3 things. From these pictures, still we use with the Kaya formula. It is extended from the IPAT formula. Here, you from see yellow one and the blue one is the total is the GDP growth. For the red one and the green one is about red one is energy efficiency improvement. Green one is about energy alternatives, like we use the renewable energy and replace the fossil energies. Before 2030, you can see China still has a bigger rate of economic growth. So before 2030, you find that this block, green block, is smaller than red block. What does it mean? This means renewable energy is still play not a bigger roles in the energy transition and the CO2 transitions. So China want to get the peak of 2030 years in terms of CO2 emissions. Energy efficiency will play major roles for the transition. Just after 2030, maybe renewable energy will more and more getting important towards the CO2 transition. This is the first key issues for the CO2 emissions. The second issues for the energy efficiency aspects. From these pictures, you can find if we make comparisons to like China's city, Shanghai, Beijing, Tianjin, to comparisons like New York, London. Here you can find a very difference between the China city with European and the US cities, like Shanghai. The red one is the power industries. This one is about the industries. This yellow one is about buildings efficiency, transport efficiency, and the West. Then you can find China at the moment, the carbon emissions most come from the industry and power sectors, not from the consumption sectors, which including buildings and transport. But for the New York, you can find a lot of CO2 emission come from the building transport. So this means that before 2030, how to improve industry efficiency is the bigger task for the China. So this is the second key issues I want to say for the China's energy transitions. This is the second issue. The third issue is then you can see from this one before 2030, the economic growth rate is still larger than the efficiency improvement rate. You know, about by the peak year, we can understand that we should take the economic growth rate nearly equal to the efficiency improvement rate. Before 2030, economic rate is still larger than the efficiency rate. So this means still the relatively the decoupling. Then by 2030, maybe this two rate becoming the equal. Then we can get the peak. After 2030, then the energy transition rate is larger than the economic growth rate. Then we can go to the absolute decoupling period. This is the third issues about China's energy and the CO2 emissions. This is the second decoupling. Then about the fourth decoupling, about consumption or lifestyle shift from the currently ownership models to the sharing models. I take these pictures for examples. I can choose. This is this axis is about the ownership. This is for ownership. This is non-ownership. This is about individuals and the collectives. Generally, traditional lifestyle is in this box. This means individual, but and also for ownership. This means everything in the older times we want to have something as our target. But for the decoupling of the materials to shift our lifestyles, we want to say into These three boxes maybe is our target. This is a non-ownership, but for the individual, like taxes. This is a reason categories. We just use some public product and public service, for example, public transit. This is for the for the community shared things. So this is the fourth decoupling. For example, these days we are doing some research about the city systems, how to from the traditional car oriented cities shift to the public transport and bicycle oriented cities. Uh, this is the density of the passengers. This is the trip distance. We say subway and the bus is the number one priorities. Then we can use the bicycle sharings as the second choice. Then we can use the car sharing systems or like some P2P and the P2Cs. This kind of things to provide the mobility service. This is another models for the China's the life models decoupling, which means decoupling service with eco footprint. This is the second part I want to say. So I finished the two parts. Then let me move to the last part, which is about how to get the target, how to get the above target about the coupling the four areas. First, let me make a brief comparisons between US, Europe, and China in terms of three aspects. One is the physical facilities constructions. The second one is about political initiatives. The third one is about awareness, knowledges, and abilities. Generally, we say in terms of physical infrastructures, USA and Europe has been finished. So, which so-called developed country, China still is ongoing. So China still should development some material infrastructures for his people. In the second aspect about institutional advantages, in terms of the sustainabilities or green transitions, European maybe is better than the US. We say USA always take a top-down, bottom-up approaches towards the sustainability shift. Then maybe China has very strong top-down approaches to do some sustainability transitions. This is the second. So we say the first one is China's development opportunity, good opportunities. The second one is China has some institutional advantages. The third one is China has some skill should build up about awareness, knowledge, and abilities. So this is generally comparisons. Then I want to say three critical issues from these pictures. How to China to get their sustainability target. First, about the strategy. We say we should divide the Plan C versus Plan B. Like Plan C for the China's and other developing countries. Plan B for the developed countries. Like these pictures I want to show. This is eco/held, which means the limit for the eco limit for the growth. for the most of the West countries, they are beyond the eco threshold. For them, sustainability transition means back, back, back within the eco threshold. Back to this one. This is the plan B. Traditional model is plan A. Plan A always beyond the threshold. So for the developed country, their model should be back within the threshold, which we call the plan B. For China, they, in terms of their basic basic needs still is under threshold. So they still should have some infrastructures, but their target, their solutions should don't beyond this limit, which is the which is so-called leapfrog models. So like this one, China is still is an emerging economies, like in terms of urbanization rate. By 2010, China still is 51%, less than 20% or 30% in comparison to Germany and the USA. And in terms of GDP, China is still one fourth or 1/6 of the EU and the USA. So this China still should have set up some material infrastructures. So this is another picture to show what's the difference between the Plan C and Plan B. This models from the UK's experts. We see this the donut model. Like this is donut divided three circles. This is a social foundation. This is environmental ceilings. Beyond this environmental ceiling is the developed country like USA and the European countries. They should back to the middle cycle. This is the plan B. For the China, because it's still short of the social social still is under social foundation. Their model should into the from this circle into the middle circle. So this is the first key issues. This key issues is a major strategy before 2030 for the China. The first the one thing. The second thing about innovation, how to get. We divided two innovation. One is the technology innovation. Another is social innovation. For example, examples for mobilities. This left is about the technology innovation. Right is the social innovation. Left technology innovation mainly concerned about how to improve the energy efficiency or how to development renewable energy cars, new energy cars. This is the technology approaches. But for the right side, we can use the life cycle shift, like a car sharing system, and set up some low transport need city, compact cities. So for China, we have some leapfrog opportunities, not only about the technology innovation, but also we should pay more attention about social innovation. So social innovation means is always is system innovation. This is two ways you can see this different two ways. Then then the third key issue is about how to combine top-down approaches and the bottom approaches. In the West countries, always they put stress on the bottom-up approaches. For the China, always the policy and some initiatives, political initiatives come from the top down, from the government. I see maybe this is the ideal boxes. China should combining top-down approaches and the bottom-up approach towards sustainability. This is for the how to go to the sustainability target the third issues. Then let me take example to show how to institutional. I'm not sure. Do you notice that the recently China cities new things, which is the bicycle sharing sharing initiatives is largely happened in China cities like Shanghai, Beijing, particularly like some mobike and OFO. This initiative not come from the top-down government initiatives, especially from bottom-up, from the business innovation. Before a couple of years, government have some public bicycles. Government put a lot of energy to promote public bicycles sharing in the cities, but they still is not welcomed by the ordinary people because they are not convenient. But for the business initiatives, bicycles sharings, just within 1 year, becoming very popular in the cities. I think this is the very good examples to say bottom-up approaches should be combined with the top-down approaches, which will help China's towards sustainability. So this is the third issues. So I think let me take a look at the time. I think this is mainly information I want to say. So I said about the three issues about green development. First, about why China should take the green development transition, particularly about before 2030, China how to do. The second is what's the main areas for China's green development. I mentioned 4 decoupling and from the urbanization in this new type of industrialization, which including the circular economy and the low carbon economy. The fourth decoupling is the consumption style, how to be changed. This is the for what's the meanings for the green development. The third one is about how to promote green development. I think this is all I want to say here. I'm not sure make me to understood by all of you. Maybe let me stop here. I get some questions to discuss.